Okay, hello. So I'm here with Iris. Iris, I don't know if you want to do a quick introduction of who you are. If you do, cool. If you don't, also cool.
Yeah, I would love to, and thank you, Julie, for having me here and for having, yeah, this space basically for making this podcast happen, this and bringing these conversations out, especially within the work that you're doing. It's just beautiful to see how also you support your yeah, your clients or the people you want to support in this way. Um, so my name is Iris. I'm originally from the Netherlands, so my name is actually pronounced Iris. And I grew up in a small town in the city of in the center of the country, and I always had a dream of living in a place near the beach, near the forest, while helping local people with whatever they basically needed. And then specifically local people that still hold this wisdom that, the modern day society is now very much longing for in like terminologies of purpose, meaning, connection to nature, connection to themselves, and all those things. And 3 years ago, I stepped into that reality. So yeah, thank you for having me, and it's really a blast to be here.
Yay, I'm so excited. So the way that I envision this is to just forever, whoever's tuning in is we're just going to have an organic conversation. We were having an organic conversation before we started recording, and we're both kind of like, we should just be talking about this. So we pressed record. We're just diving right in. And the first thing that we had started talking about, so just to give a little bit of a background, Iris and I met, I would say randomly, but I don't really believe in things being random. We met on Threads. I had posted a thread, I believe, about doing podcast recordings, like being on people's podcasts and things like that. And she hopped on and she was like, "Yeah, we should connect." So we've connected. And we had our first conversation just 2 days ago. Yeah, 2 days ago. And it was beautiful and amazing and absolutely loved it. And we just had an impromptu decision to hop on today and do this recording. Originally, we were going to talk about the witch wound and how that's coming up right now for a lot of people, especially with it being spooky season, as people like to call it, with Halloween coming up. Um, but we may have taken a shift, so we'll see if we come and circle back around to that or not. If not, then oh well. Um, so we have been talking about like the energies that are going on right now and the way that we're feeling. So Iris, I'll just let you go ahead and dive in wherever you feel called to with that.
Yeah, I think I just want to refer back to what you just mentioned actually before we started recording. It's just like, wow, it's just basically very exciting what we are gonna be experiencing in the upcoming years. And a lot of people want to put that on a timeline of like, oh yeah, 50, 150 years, or, and if you look at prophecies in a way, if you have the prophecy of the Mayans, of the Aztecs, of the Egyptians, basically all the ancient cultures, they all say the same thing. We're in a time of change. And now is everything always changing? But specifically, this time is around like, okay, the earth as an organism is changing. And some people want to call that her vibration, the other calls it frequency, another terminology, like, in science, they have way other terminologies for that. But what I really liked about it is like, yeah, you first mentioned, oh, yeah, I hear so many people like, oh, maybe I'm just depressed and I feel so tired. And you're just like, no, you're basically just a vessel through which, this organism is changing her energy. And it's just a whole lot easier if you're a little bit more conscious of how to deal
Yeah.
with this.
Hmm.
And that's, I think, where we come into this infinite field of possibility once you learn to like work with that energy, work like work yourself as a vessel, and how you then also can create your dream that is in alignment with the planetary needs. But yeah, you actually help people with that. So Yeah, I'm also really curious to, hear from you, like, how has been your experience with this journey of, becoming more conscious of the tools that are there? And I think that's
Yeah.
important for people to know.
Yeah. So I think like just the quick and dirty of my story is like starting in 2019. So I graduated from college in 2010, went into the workforce, not in my chosen career field, but I think 2 years later maybe got into it. And so I was working in the automotive manufacturing industry for almost a decade, came out of that industry. Um, and it was like the universe was giving me all of these beautiful signs that I was not really picking up on. So for anyone who's heard my story, they already know, but it was little things happening at first. Like I was getting like bleach stains on my work pants. I didn't own bleach at the time. Like there was no bleach in my home. And I'm just like, these are new pants. Like, what is going on here? From getting like a really big tear in the back of my pants as I'm walking to my office one morning. I had to call a coworker in and be like, yo, do I need to go home and change my pants right now? And he's like, 100% I will cover for you. Like, go change your pants. So I had to drive back home like 20 minutes, change my pants, come back to work. Um, and it's just like things that were like little things at first. Like I'm applying for jobs in other companies, same industry. I would get so far in the process where it's like I almost had it, and then the door would close. And I'm like, what is going on here? Like I'd be perfect for this. Like, what is going on here? Um, and it's all beautiful, right? And I actually just did a like a 10-minute video, I think yesterday, about when the universe redirects you and universal redirection, spirit redirecting you, like whatever you choose to call it, right? God redirecting you. I feel like when we're not aware consciously of what's going on, it can be super, super painful and it can be devastating. Like I was in a relationship in that time frame that was a 3-year relationship. I thought this was the person I was going to be with forever. And I remember when he wanted to take a break, he was like, I think that you should think about us taking a break. I think that you need to do some soul searching. And I'm like, what? Like, I felt like it was out of left field, right? Like, I was crushed. I was devastated. 6 weeks later, we officially broke up. And I was like, the hell is this dude talking about, right? Like, I don't need to reassess anything. Don't put your shit onto me. Um, but really, so at this time, I'm not like fully conscious and aware. I'm just starting to, right? And that was probably the biggest catalyst for me. And then I start to dive into these things that I knew that he would not have been comfortable with me sharing with him. Like I remember having a psychic reading at one point, and it was so on point with a lot of things. And I was so excited and I wanted to share it. And he's like, oh no, nope, do not talk to me about that. Like she's a witch. That woman is a witch. Don't talk to me about it. And I'm like, I could feel like part of myself just completely close off. And I'm like, oh my God, like I can't share this huge part of myself with the person that I love and that I'm in a relationship with and that I want to spend my life with. Like, what is going on? But I feel like the times that I most cannot save myself, like I never would have broken up with him. We probably would have gotten married and I would have been in a relationship that I knew I wasn't meant to be in, right? So maybe years down the line, we would have gotten divorced or something like this. But the universe saved me through him, right? The universe is like, this is not for you. You need to wake up. We've given you all these other opportunities. You haven't taken them. Let's give you this one. So that was a huge one. And then everything with work started happening after that. And I got super, super sick. Like for 6 weeks, I could barely eat. Water would make me nauseous sometimes, which was a very cool thing to happen. Yeah. And then I went to my first spiritual retreat, not knowing what it was, not knowing what to tell people, right? They're like, what are you going to do in California? And I'm like, I'm just going to a retreat. Like, I didn't know what to tell them. I'm like, I don't fully understand what this is, but I know that I need it and I know I need to be here. Um, and so the universe is so amazing in giving us what we need, but then it's our opportunity to say, yes, let me go down this path or no. And I feel like when that's a no and when we're not aware of what's going on is when it can really pull us down and we can feel like we're depressed and we can be depressed. But when we have this other awareness and this consciousness that it's just the universe redirecting me for something better, then it's liberating. Like, I don't know if you have any personal stories that you want to share around that, but I just find it so liberating when you can like step into that of like, okay, this situation may appear to suck on the outside, but I know it's in my highest good. And I know what's meant for me will never pass me by. So I'm just going to lean in and roll with the punches and see where this takes me and see where it goes.
I love that. And I love what you're saying there. It's just like, that's how we become the eternal student of life. And that's how we like many in many corporate cultures, they are like, oh yeah, you need to have a learning, what is it? A learning attitude or a learning mindset. And it's just like, okay, if you just, the practical thing that you can start implementing right now is that every challenge is here to teach you something. And if you start telling yourself that every single day, even if it's just in an affirmation 3 times in the mirror, it's just like, all right, like you start programming your mind like that. And yeah, I have actually a very recent experience, which is my partner recently, over the last 9 months, was in treatment for a type of cancer. And for many people around me, it was just like, whoa, like your partner, he has cancer. And it's just like, yeah, I know. Duh. But at the same time, for us, like we had this learning mindset of like, okay, this, even though this is a physical thing manifesting in reality in his body, right? And I'm not his body and I'm not him, and we had totally different processes to go through and things to face. But the only thing that we were like, okay, this is teaching us something. This is teaching us how to trust. And for me, it was really a lot about, okay, it's teaching me how to trust. It's teaching me that, with the right mindset, you don't have to say goodbye to your partner in a way. It taught me to be okay with the fact that he would at one point maybe die, and there was no speaking about that. But those were all the things that I went through. But as soon as those things came up for me, like the fear of maybe he's gonna die, I'm like, oh, this is here to teach me something, to trust that he's not gonna die, or to be okay with him dying. And like within that, it's, yes, it's so liberating what you're saying. And it's such a way of just being able to see life as it comes, and be very present. And then also see that within that presence there's just an infinite amount of possibilities that you can choose from in how you react and how you choose to experience something. And then subsequently it starts creating your reality, because you start living in a different way. So you start emitting a different type of energy, and that starts attracting different people. But if it attracts different people, it also attracts different other things. So it's just, like, that's where also the idea of like the witch, it's interesting that so many people are afraid of it, because I'm just like, I think those people, like, I think like being able to work with the elements and seeing that and having that exploratory mindset of, oh, what does this plant and that plant combine together with a set of intentions in it? It's just like, okay, what can we create? What is that infinite amount of possibility that comes into life when we just start combining natural elements again? And that's something that a lot of people don't even think about.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. Because for me, when I would think about the witch or like the witch wound, as people like to call it, and when I would like being a witch has always been portrayed, or almost always, majority of the time, it's portrayed as being bad, right? Like a witch will cast a spell on you and put a curse on you and things like this. And it's like, Sure, there is good and bad to every side, right? And there is, like you said, intention. So it depends on with whatever you're doing in your life, what's your intention?
Yeah.
And for me, it's also like, how are you speaking and what are you speaking into? Because I think a lot of people don't understand the reason why we call the way we write words spelling is because when you speak it, when you write it, it's spell casting, right? We are all always casting spells and we don't even know it. And so if we can take it back to like that very, I don't think minute's the right word, but to this very like basic level of what it is and how we work with nature, how we work with ourselves, how we work with the world, then it becomes less scary, I think. And I used to have a very big aversion to the word. I'm like, ooh, don't call me a witch. Like I'm not. Nope. And within the last few years, I'm like, yes, please, I am a witch. Like I am. Like you co-create with the universe every single day. You co-create with everything in your existence, and it's from like blood rites and blood rituals, which I used to think that were pretty scary and pretty weird. And then I heard someone say like there's a way of getting in touch with your body as a woman that you've never experienced, or some of us have never experienced, like if you're not working with your cycle. And as you have this blood, then you can use it to do blood rites and rituals. You could also offer it back to the earth in gratitude and to her and for her. And that I was like, that made me think. And I'm like, oh, that's a whole different spin on it, right? It's a whole different spin on it. And so I just think that where we're at as a collective in the knowledge and what we've been fed, what we've been programmed, um, it's done us a really huge disservice because, like you said, working with the elements, it's beautiful and it's magical. And I just called myself a bee mama yesterday to two of my friends because the bees have been coming to the hummingbird feeder now that the hummingbirds have gone, and I keep feeding it up for like filling it up for them. And I also will take it and I will like tilt it to the, even when they're there, I'll tilt it to the side so the juice will come out easier for them. And
Oh,
I'm like, and I've had several of them come and like land on me. And I'm
yeah.
like, for a second, there's that fear, like I might get stung because I got stung earlier in the year. And then I'm like, nope, like they're attracted to me because of my light and because of our co-creation together and what I'm doing with them and for them. Like I'm helping them to survive longer and get what they need. So it's beautiful. Like a couple of years ago, never would have done that, right? But now I'm like, okay, like my intentions are good, they're pure, like I'm here to help you. And I truly believe that like animals, people, whatever, like they feel that when your baseline intention is pure, then they feel that.
Yeah. Yeah, and for me, it's just like I'm always in the awe when you say that, like animals and plants, they feel your intention. And if like I've been trained in nonviolent communication, and the only thing that I actually do with people on that front is like asking them to define how they're feeling, because a lot of people are not even, like capable of mentioning how they're feeling when you say, "Hey, how are you?" They're like, "Yeah, it's good, and this and this and this and this is happening." And I'm like, "No, how are you feeling? Like, how are you?" And then it's like, "Yeah, I'm busy and all that stuff." I'm like, "No, are you sad? Are you angry? Like frustrated? You happy? Like, what is
Yeah.
that emotion?" And when you're referring to like that intention, and that animals can feel that, like we're like animals, we are animals, like we're sensory beings. We can sense animals as well, we can sense the plants as well, we can sense each other's attention. That's how we sometimes get this gut feeling of like, yeah, this person is really not in my highest good, I need to get the fuck out of here. Sorry for the word. But
Ah, you're good. You're good.
like,
I swear like
wow,
a sailor. It's
okay,
all good.
get out of here. Or something like, oh yeah, there's something under the table. which is really not working in this meeting. What is it, like, and it's interesting how women have a natural, well, are have that naturally still more than men. And also it's, I've been noticing for quite a while now, like how that affects, like if you are in a group with men as women, like, a lot of women actually step out of a meeting with a lot of men quite drained, because there's just so much disbalance in the type of energy that you're matching, because you're also always complementing in like how we work. And animals too, if you're very busy, the animal becomes slower. If like if you have been on the couch for a while, your dog probably just wants to go out also because he wants to walk. But it's just like they're creating this balance, right? And isn't it all about the balance? So yeah, even I just wanted to mention also, like with this intention, even to make it a bit more tangible, like there, did you hear about the research that has been done with water and intention?
Oh, girl, we could talk about water all day long. We could talk. I speak intentions into my water first thing in the morning, whether it's the intention of what I want to feel throughout the day, like if I want to feel more love in my life, or if I want to feel or experience, right? I'm like, I literally will have my mug and I'm speaking into it, like, gratitude and appreciation and wanting, to have miracles in my day or whatever. It's like I'm really wanting to pull in. And it's really, really funny and interesting to me. Because I think we talked about this a little bit on Sunday, is where like we're very materialistic as a society, right? And whenever I start to really write things out, like we have goals, right? And we can have goals that are like monetary and things like that. But when I'm speaking intentions into my water, it's never like, I want to manifest that Mercedes today. Like it's like I want to feel happy. I want to feel excitement. Like it's just whatever the thing is that I really want to call in that day. I
Yeah.
also will write on little slips of paper. Oh, I do have one. I will write on little slips of paper and it falls onto the
Oh my
floor,
goodness.
like things that I
That's
want to program
amazing.
into my water. And then I'll set it down and then I'll set the water, because all my water is always in like glass jars. So then I'll just set it on top for at least 30 seconds and let it program the water with whatever my intention is.
Yeah. And it changes the structure then. Like the research just shows, like, okay, whatever you put in the water, it changes the structure. Like they made these beautiful photos of like completely distorted crystals when you drink your water with like an intention of anger, and when you put the intention of gratitude in there, and you just only have to hold in your hand and say thank you, that's already like that it's reacting to that to your voice. So
Yeah.
it's just like it's really potent and powerful stuff. And
Yeah.
this is all like we could all call it witchcraft, we can all call it like, yeah, earth-based living. And even the people that say, yeah, I don't have those capacities, I'm like, yeah, you have it, because you are a
You're
human
already doing it.
and you're drinking water. So
Yeah. Yeah.
your body is 70% water.
Yeah, I was
Whatever
just
you
gonna
put
say,
in your
like, to
intention,
take
you
it a step
become.
further, right? Like if
Yeah.
you're thinking negative thoughts and if you're thinking like whatever's running in your subconscious programming, right? That's being programmed into the waters of your body, no
Yeah.
matter what. Like it's you're constantly being programmed through outside, forces and influences, but also your own internal. That's why it's so important to like do mindset work and have, and these are things that we work with clients on too, is it's a lot of like self-love and mindset.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever got into like the programming of the water and things like that. I would love to. But it's just like how do you speak to yourself and what do you say? And like you were saying, like standing in front of the mirror and doing, three affirmations or saying an affirmation 3 times a day or whatever it was. Like we invite clients all the time to go stand in front of the mirror and look themselves in the eye and say, like, I love you, or you're powerful, or I am powerful. And see, like, when you first start doing mirror work, it can be cringy. It can be cringy as fuck.
Yeah.
I was challenged one time too to go into, and stand in front of a mirror and hug yourself.
Yeah.
Naked if you're comfortable doing it naked, but if not, like, clothed is fine too. But just like hug yourself and love yourself and to say specific things. And at first, you can feel really silly or you can feel dumb and you can be like, what the fuck am I doing right now? And then it eventually morphs into such a beautiful practice. And like, I'll go in the mirror and I'll be like, you look hot today, like, whatever the thing is, right? And then you just get this really big smile and
Yeah.
you're just so happy and excited. And so I would invite anyone who's listening, like, start programming your water and start speaking to yourself in the mirror and speak the things to yourself that you would want to hear from other people. And it's fun too to see, like, what are things that people say to you that kind of surprise you in a good way. For me, it's having the acknowledgement of, like, my business partner is really fabulous at this. Like, she'll be like, thank you. So, like, I'm so proud of you for showing up and doing the work. And in my mind, I'm like, well, of course I'm showing up and doing the work. Like, that's how I grow, right? But to have that acknowledgement. And it's also like, what are the things that, if you have children or animals, like, what would you say to them, or what do you say to them? And I have a dog who's a little shit sometimes because she's part beagle and part Jack Russell. So she's like crazy off the walls. But when other people say things to her about her behavior, I'm like, don't put that on my puppy. Like, she's not crazy, she's expressive, right? She's
Yeah.
expressing in the only way that she knows how. And that's like, I look at her like she's my kid. And would I tell my human child, or would I tell her that? Like you're a mess, or you're whatever. No, I wouldn't. I'm like, okay, thank you. I thank her all the time too, because by saying thank you, that completely shifts her. Like, we were just talking about shifts with the water. If I were out walking and she starts to get reactive towards things, I'm like, thank you. Thank you for being a good girl. Thank you. You're doing a great job. And we keep going, right? And it changes her reactivity like immensely. It's awesome. It's crazy, but it's awesome.
Yeah. And that's the beauty, if you have that relationship with a dog or with a cat, you can really start to nourish that greater than human world relationship that is so key to where we are in our time right now, at least for me in my story. Because where I'm like, for me, it's just over the years I've been studying the indigenous wisdoms a lot, and it's just like I'm fully down that rabbit hole. And like, we need nothing more than people just reconnecting to their human nature and taking their place in the cycles again and attuned to the natural rhythms. Like, for myself, I've just experienced like attuning to the natural rhythm and seeing the dog as my family, as my kin, kith and kin. It's like seeing a dog as my family, treating it that way, and like realizing that that dog actually has a personality, that that dog is a sovereign being and has something to say in a conversation of where we're going when we're going on a walk. Those little things already helped me retune to, okay, this is actually what I am as a human. And, I belong to all of this because this dog wants to work with me. And this dog wants to walk with me instead of me taking it on the leash. And there is just such a beautiful healing then taking place. And like, well, okay, I belong, and I do have a purpose. And I'm part of this greater community of life. And then we don't necessarily need to like seek our own conscious community somewhere or start our own intentional community up on the mountain, but we can just like start to live in community with whoever shows up in your life, because you're realizing everyone is my kin, everyone is my kith, and that's just that transformation that also makes it so much easier to then start choosing what's really aligned for you as a person, and including all that mirror work. This is a lot of mirror work. That's like, yeah, it's really
Yeah,
profound.
you could do mirror work without looking
Yeah,
in a mirror.
yeah, it's a lot of looking at yourself, because
Yeah.
there are quite some conditions or conditioning that needs to kind of be reprogrammed in order to really see yourself as part of this greater organism we call Earth, or in other words, nature, and realize that we are human nature, and that we
Yeah.
have a humane nature. Actually, the word human comes from humane. Like it's like an ongoing process. So it's just so interesting how we lost that way, basically.
Mm.
But luckily, a lot of people are remembering it right now. I also like the word
Yeah.
remember, because you can also say
Yes.
remember with, you know, become a
Yeah.
member of the cycles again. It's just
Yeah,
such
I love that.
a way. It's the language again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's back to language, right? And that's
Yeah.
there's two things from that I want to, when you're talking about the dog and you're talking about where the dog wants to lead me. This is I was laughing because when my dog and I are out walking, I will ask her which direction she wants to go. Because the walk is for her. Like it's an added benefit for me, right? Because I get exercise in. But I will ask her, like, okay, which way do you want to go? And if she's kind of, I'll be like, okay, which way do you want to go? And then she'll pick a lane, she'll pick a way. And so I love that you said that because I ask her often on our walks, like, which way do you want to go? Um, and then namaste came up for me while you were talking. So I think when I first learned, and some people might not know what the word means, wanted to look it up one day to see what it means. Is like the God in me sees the God in you. And when I learned what that meant, it was like one of the most profound things that I've ever experienced. Because I'm like, oh, shit. And then we get into this bigger, like, whatever you call source or whatever you call the energy that we come from, we all come from the same place. So like your shit is my shit, right? Like my shit is your shit. Like we
Totally.
healed together. Yeah, we healed together, we grow together, and we're all just mirrors and reflections for each other. And I think that's huge that you're like, it's all mirror work. And I was like, oh shit, it is all mirror work, right? Like if everything is a mirror, which it is, then it's all mirror work.
Yeah, and it's also like you reflect something in me, and I reflect something in you, but it's also that through you I know that I exist.
Mm,
So it's just like this ultimate interdependence that we have. Like we can say we're all the same. I don't believe we're all the same, but
no.
we're all like from the same matter,
Yes.
and we just
Yes.
have different forms.
Yeah.
And or not even matter, because it's basically light taking on different shapes. But then it's also just so interesting how, for me, the term Ubuntu is just I am because we are. But it's
Mm,
also through you, I am able to see me, because if you hadn't been there, who knows that what I'm experiencing is actually me? Or, if I get to a very deep state in a meditation, sometimes I just dissolve. Actually, a lot of times I just dissolve. And then it just helps me to, look at a tree and realize, whoa, I see the tree. So if I see the tree, that must mean that I am in my human body again, which means that I am me. And also just this idea of I am, and presence and appreciation. If you're like coming back to yourself, it's like, yeah, appreciation is like almost saying thanks for something in the present, a presence, right? So there's
mm,
just so many beautiful ways to realize, oh, actually, be without you I wouldn't be even me, because I wouldn't have
yeah.
this conversation,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I wouldn't be able to
Oh,
share this story. So
I love all of
yeah,
this.
that's just
It's
really
so
beautiful.
the
Yeah,
the presence piece is, I just love the synchronicities of the universe and how things always line up because you know that I had book club on Sunday after our call. And the book that we're reading right now is called The Union of Isis and Thoth. And so these are Egyptian goddess and an Egyptian god. One I resonate very, very strongly with. Like I'm of those lineage. Isis, I'm like, yeah, she's cool, love her, she's great. She's just not currently someone that I like really practice and work with. Um, and I had taken the picture from that book that I had sent to you. But the second journey that we did, um, the first was soul retrieval, and then the second journey was it's not timelines. I forget exactly what it was called, but it's like where you take your ba and you're sending your ba out, and then you can either stay in the present moment or you can go to the past or experience the future. And I started to get so much pain in my body that I couldn't go to the past or go to the future. I just had to be present in my body at the moment. And when it was happening, the logical mind kicks in and I'm like, is this because I didn't have enough integration time between soul retrieval and doing this? And I'm thinking logically, like, what is all of this going on? And then it finally dawned on me. Oh, it's because your ass needs to stay in the present. You don't need to be future tripping and you don't need to be back in the past. Like you get to be fully grounded in the present right now. And so that's exactly what I got. It was like my experience with ayahuasca. Um, and I haven't shared my experience with a lot of people. I do share it with people, but I know like my intention going into ayahuasca was to be more embodied because I know from trauma that I've had, previously in my life and all these things, I had very high cortisol levels and my ability to detach and to disassociate from my body was extraordinary. The first time I ever I cold plunged for 10 minutes. The second time was 12 minutes. The third time was 16 minutes, like it was nothing. And I'm like, and the second time was colder than the first time. I'm like, that's not like, I'm not sure this is something to celebrate, right? Like, because most people, and yeah, I did have the fight or flight experience for the first 30 to 45 seconds, but I feel like for most people, this is not normal. So I got very curious about like why I was able to do that. And I think it was largely due to the ability that I had to disassociate with my body.
Yeah.
And so that was my intention going into ayahuasca. It was like my intention is to be more embodied. And so now I do a lot of embodiment work and a lot of embodiment practices, but like the experiences that I had with Aya, which is so funny to me when people talk about their experiences or what they think the experience is going to be like. And I'm like, first of all, it's custom to everybody. Like you get what you are here to receive. And a lot of people have this fear that they're going to be extremely sick during the process and just purging, purging, purging. And I'm like, that does happen for people, but it doesn't happen for everyone. And it's not meant to happen for everyone. Like you get exactly what you need. And I just remember the second day of ceremony coming out of it. It was sunrise. We were in Costa Rica and it was sunrise. And I was just like, kind of like waking up. And I just felt so gloriously in my body. It was beautiful for probably the first time in literally decades, probably 3 decades. Um, and I just remember stretching and stretching so viscerally that I was like, this is what a cat or a dog must feel like every time they stretch. Like that's literally the feeling that I got. And it was, oh, yummy was the only way that I could describe it to people, and that doesn't even do it justice.
I'm just mesmerized by how the universe is working right now, and this story it just brings it literally brings tears to my eyes. Because I think a few weeks ago, I was like, I need to start sharing more about my perspective of working with plant medicines. I've been working with ayahuasca for 3 years now, quite regularly to say, and I never share about it on podcasts. And and it's just interesting, like I actually have a podcast scheduled, or no, I had reacted to someone who asked for a podcast on plant medicines and specifically ayahuasca experiences. And then, you know, that story, like our communication didn't want to work out. So she didn't reply to me. And I like the scheduling at one point, it just, the booking app didn't want to work. And now I'm in this conversation, which just randomly happened. And you're bringing up this topic. And I'm just sitting in the gratitude for this wonderful medicine that then just, is able to provide you with that experience that you needed so much to come back in your body. And for me too, like there, she has done so much. And at the same time, I think there is also something that really strikes me, and that's just in the general sense also related to the online business world, what we were sharing about, we're talking about on Sunday, is like, wow, even though we were talking about dream weaving on Sunday, remember, and
Hmm.
manifesting and the differences between it, and how it just how we both get the itch. Like, yeah, we can make it the witch, but like, yeah, it brings out a little bit of a witchiness in me, but it definitely
Hmm.
gives me an itch. How people use these tools and these beautiful medicines that we are having, whether it's meditation, whether it's, a plant medicine, whether it's other tools that ancient cultures have been cultivating for so long, and how the modern day mindset takes these tools, learns them, and then puts them into service of manifesting a fucking Mercedes, which is, if you need a car, it's fine, but like creating some kind of life which is not in a harmonious relationship with the natural cycles, or not, is not nurturing actually those who do the ground level work of providing society with food, and, like, who need help right now to preserve the waters, to, transition to more sustainable ways of agriculture, more sustainable ways of other types of, like, very basic things we need. um and the amount of consumerism that takes place, like, do we use all these tools in order to actualize ourselves in a way, or do we start realizing that these tools that we are being given are actually your invitation to transcend your own ego and step into service of what we're here to learn and what we're here to become? And that's what you're embodying it so beautifully in, like, in the conversation too. I'm just like, wow, you really understand what it's like to just be a person who is in service to more than the human world, and
Yeah.
like have that reciprocal relationship. um and also like being able to honor the tools and the medicines that are here to teach us how to get over ourselves, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just, like, put the ego aside from time to time, become
Yeah.
humble, and pick up someone else's shit. Like, it's literally picking up someone else's dog shit is already a good deed, like.
Yeah.
But so many people are like, no, I'm not touching dog shit. I'm like, well, it's pretty good compost actually, for the compost actually. So is your own shit and pee and blood. So yeah, and your tears are a beautiful medicine. Like, there's actually research on how tears are just such a beautiful medicine for the
Yeah.
body to heal. It's
Yeah.
like, it's amazing what we
There's
can
so
do.
much. There's so much that's just not, it's not that it's not known. It's not widely remembered and tapped into. And I
Yeah.
think it's interesting to me, like when I do speak to people, or I've told people like, oh yeah, I've sat with ayahuasca before, or when I was there getting ready to go, they're like, oh, you're gonna go do drugs in the jungle. I'm like, no, nope. Like I'm not going to get high. I'm not going to like, I'm going to a sacred space, to a retreat with other like-minded people where they know how to hold a safe and sacred container for me to feel safe, to then work with this medicine in a way that supports me to heal and grow. And and also anytime that I've like done mushrooms, I've never done it like in collectively in a group, but or even when I have blue lotus tea, right? It's like an honoring that happens. It doesn't have to be a big, huge thing, right? But just like the prayer to and the gratitude of,
Yeah.
like, whatever you want to show me. I think an interesting aspect too, is sometimes we put so many expectations on what we want, expect, and think that we need. And it's like, how about we just let the mystery do what the mystery does, right? Like, just whatever you want. The blue lotus, I'm like, what
Yeah.
I'm just grateful to be here. Like whatever you want to do and give me, right? But it's just taking that moment to offer the gratitude. And I've never gone into working with mushrooms and psychedelics to it's always been a microdose, and it's always been like I muscle test before or I douse before to see what my body actually wants to work with, if it even does. And then it's setting that intention of and the gratitude, like just the thanks and the fucking gratitude, people. Like that's just it's that simple. And when people are like, "Oh yeah, just to do this to get high and da da da," and I'm like, "Nah, it's not like that. Like if that's why you're doing it, I would encourage you to rethink your whole
Yeah.
experience and expectation, because that's when you line yourself up to have really terrible experiences. The ones that people talk about and they're like, "Oh my gosh, the walls were melting and I was having so much anxiety and I thought da 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 all these things, right?" And it's like I remember the one time I've smoked cannabis more than once, but like the one time that I smoked and I started to have anxiety, and I was like, whoa, whoa, breathe, like come back to yourself, come back to the breath. And the lesson in that for me was like, what's your intention that you're holding going in, or what's your state, right? Like if I'm in a crazy chaotic state or I'm feeling a way that's not that I don't feel good in the moment, I'm not I'm not working with anything but my own body and my own self, right? Because it's just going to amplify where you're at.
Yeah.
And I think people, from the experience that I've seen, most people take it from a very Western perspective of I'm doing it to get high. And it's like, I have such problem with that because it should
Yeah.
be so much more.
And or the Western perspective of like, oh yeah, let's create the quick fix. And it's
Oh,
just like,
yeah.
yeah, like if you really look at the amount of conditioning that you need to rework, how do you think that, that is gonna be your quick fix? You might get
Yes,
a
yes,
revelating insight if
yes.
you're willing to listen. You get the revelating insights that you need. But at the same time, it's you in the end doing the work in your daily life that is
Yes.
going to be creating the change that you want. And that's going to
Yeah.
be aligning you with the natural cycles. And that's going to be
Yeah.
aligning you with the reality in which your dream is actually already there and it's already alive because it's already in your mind.
Yeah.
So it's already there,
Yeah.
it's just you co-creating with the universe. But in order to co-create, you need to know the universe and you need to know where we're at and
You need to know yourself.
we're on
You
Earth.
are the universe, right? Like you need to know
Yeah,
yourself and get
yeah,
in tune with yourself. I think that's where it really, really starts.
yeah.
Um, all right, we're at an hour
Wow,
now.
what a conversation.
I would
Oh my
love, I would love to basically have like a continuation of this because I feel like A, we didn't plan any of this, right? Like well, the
God.
specific plan was to talk about the witch wound, which we covered just a tiny bit.
Yeah,
But it's so beautiful how organic this is. And I would love to have a second part of this where maybe we just focus on plant medicine and then tuning into you and the universe. You are the universe. But yeah, I would love to do that with you if you're up for it.
yeah. I guess I'm being invited to just say yes and get over myself. So yeah, I
Happy
would
I could
love
help
to.
you with
And
All
it would be
right.
great to meet you because
Yeah.
it would get me one step closer to actually launching my own podcast at one point, where I'm just kind of like hiccuping against. But
Yeah.
yeah, this is a
Yeah.
beautiful way, and I really love talking to you. I'm learning so
Yeah.
much from you. Thank you.
Thank you. I loved this. So, for anyone who's wanting to work with Iris in any way, I will go ahead and link down below how you can find her on Instagram, and then any other information that you have that you want to support, website, anything like that. You just send it to me, and I'll link that down below. Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me today and talk with me. This has been so amazing. It was like the highlight of my month.
Yeah, and I would say anyone who wants advice to, if you're doubting to start a podcast, like get in touch with you, Julie, because you really pulled me through it, and yeah, gave me the trust to like get it that it will be ready in time, but it will be happening. So yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for that, and thank you for this
Thank
conversation. It's
you.
so
Thank
beautiful.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Until next time.
Until next time.